Hello, hello. Another
Hello.
another write once, read many. If you want to vamp for a second while I do the thing with the link.
Sure. Are we starting with my this week's new art?
Oh, well actually I have done I forgot to start the thing. It's a little supercut of all the speed draws of the Aisha drawings up to now. And
Oh,
then
yay.
the new one is the last speed draw, and we'll have the new art as the main one for that.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been because I was reorganizing. Well, I wasn't reorganizing my folders. I was reorganizing a little bit, and then I was trying to catalog all of the um different people that I've depicted to make sure nobody's being left out except for Huckwolf and Kaiser.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of reminiscing on all of the old ones. This one's not. I mean, I'm happy with how Aisha turned out because that's the thing, especially in like when you're first depicting somebody out of costume. Like, I don't want to end up doing a design I don't like.
Well, the other thing is,
It,
like, she's so distinctively dressed in this, and, like,
yeah.
that can sort of be focused on, but, like, I think you have a good base for what she looks like as far as her face. The rest of it's kind of pretty vague, and she'll,
Hmm.
like, the next time we see her out of costume, it will have been, like, weeks from this scene, and, like, the kind of weeks where you grow up all at once, because it'll be
Yeah. Yeah,
post
exactly. I
Slaughterhouse
think
9, I
she's
think.
she's pretty different person. Well, I don't know.
Actually,
She's not
not
super different
post.
personality wise, but she's like she's not interested in like I want to fuck around and bother my brother and that kind of thing. It's more like I want to prove myself and show people that I'm awesome,
Yeah.
which I appreciate. Um, here's my. I remember this one. I had so much trouble like getting what I wanted for her pose and everything, and I ended up going with straightened hair for when she's in costume because I think it's really fun when it's all like flying around her face. Um, and a lot of the other capes will end up doing something different with their hair when they're in and out of costume, just to kind of like differentiate themselves and keep their identity. I think it's funny though because I always imagine like Vista specifically straightens her hair when she's in costume, and I'm like, how does that work? Like
Yeah, because, like,
when
when the whole city's flooded and they're getting rained on and stuff, like,
yeah, they're
it's kind
getting
of just
rained
streaked
on all
down
the
on her
time.
face, probably.
Is she or like when they go out for the like emergency attacks or whatever, she's like having to straighten her hair really fucking quickly. Hopefully she has thin hair and can do it in like a couple sweeps. But yeah, I always think about that. Like, whatever complicated thing they need to do to get into costume is like always so funny. Like,
Well,
thank God Taylor doesn't straighten her hair.
I was gonna say the other thing is, like Taylor specifically mentions in Arc 8 when she's interacting with Laser Dream, like, how morning breath and, like, not combed hair and, like, just kind of fucked, like, she looks.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing though. She has like morning breath and stuff, but then she still does her like swept over the eye hairstyle.
Yeah, well,
Like she's spent the time to
she
do that part.
I don't think it takes a lot because I think her haircut is specific to that.
Hmm.
I don't know if they ever outright say it in Worm, but she's only got one eye. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Happy birthday, 2 + 4 × 5.
Happy birthday. And as always, sorry that you have to go to work at the same time as this thing goes on, but that is the way of
Yeah, well,
things.
and that you have to work on your birthday. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. But also, High
Vale,
Vale and High Greg.
Vale says day one of Ward's recovery program after Leviathan visit. Vista, someone please find a flattening iron and get the power back on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was honestly like I was thinking about this kind of stuff when I've been like workshopping my OC or whatever. It's not an OC, my persona.
Mm-hmm.
My self-insert, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Like, I would want to have a distinct style in costume, but I'm also very like, uh, how do you say? I don't like being high maintenance. I like functionality.
Right. Right.
Um, and like what, I wouldn't do anything crazy like some of these people do.
Right. I mean, it's usually like noticeably different when you are
hmm
wearing makeup because it does not happen to like a big degree on a daily basis, you
hmm
know? So
Yeah.
I think what you would probably want to do is in costume, no makeup, and maybe change your out of costume to just be like slightly more, which is like annoying in a way,
hmm
but it means that when you're in go mode, like that's the time you don't need to do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And like the most prep I would need to do is to like wash my face, which takes less than, like 30 seconds or whatever.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Vale said, I bet 2 plus 4 times 5 would appreciate if someone saying happy birthday live. I actually think that they would not like that.
Happy birthday to you. It was a
I
spoken word
actually
version.
beg to differ. And yeah, here's this week's art. Um I was having trouble thinking of ideas for like Aisha specific art because there's nothing that like it's not that she like doesn't have a lot of personality in her chapter, but she does, but it doesn't lead to an artistic idea in the way that like I feel like Lisa's chapter, like the reason that I chose what I did is because she kind of constantly compares people to animals and like not a very direct way, but like they talk about her like Volpine smile and like obviously Rachel is a dog.
Yeah, and I mean like
Um,
I think that a lot of the stuff Lisa like she leans into the oh, I'm like a fox. I'm like a crazy fox. Like
yeah,
she
exactly.
like the perception that Taylor has of her is not by accident. Like she has
Mhm.
crafted this of herself. So, yeah. Uh,
Um,
but I
Vale
don't
said it obvious.
oh,
It is obvious, but doesn't get a ton of focus how lucky Taylor is to have a costume creation power. Lisa,
yeah.
fox, Rachel, dog, Taylor, praying mantis. Taylor's not a praying mantis. She's like a stick bug. She's like
Oops.
she's like kind of awkward and like hobbling around,
Hobbling around.
hobbling around. Children with animal faces. Hmm. Yeah.
I don't think Vic has begun to read Pale, so that's not
Oh, don't put me on blast.
I'm not
I'm
trying to put you on blast. Just Greg's saying children with animal faces, and I'm just saying you ain't uh in the know.
I'm not in the know, unfortunately. Here's my Aisha art. I'm actually like pretty happy with how it turned out. I feel like I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth on it. Like it looks like a silly pattern or something, but also I like the like whole void idea where like
Mm-hmm.
she's on the peripheral of your vision. She's got her fucking knife that she stabs. Uh that she stabs somebody with in this chapter. Um,
Somebody.
is the blunt that she took from her mom down in the right hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then just some like little flashes of there's this is like never mind. I won't mention it. I was gonna talk about Aisha and a moment that we see in Ward, but I don't know if it's going to become relevant to the plot, so I'll skip that.
Okay. Okay. Um. Cool. I did want to do the audience participation reminder. It was. Oh, I grabbed the wrong thing. It was. What kind of hijinks would you get up to with Aisha's power? Um,
So many hijinks.
so many hijinks. I'm so glad I know Control Shift V now. I can't believe I didn't know it previously. And it's I love it. David told me about Control Shift V, and I was like, oh, well, I'm glad that you told me. Mac user somehow knowing more than all of the Windows users.
Man, they always do. Those damn Mac users.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, let us know about hijinks and yourself. Greg wanted to call out a line that I failed to mention from 13.1. This is a classic Taylor Hebert quote. Shit, I didn't think he'd come so quickly. And you know, I have to say about that, typical
she gets
men.
That from her dad too. He says all kinds of weird shit.
Anyway, so the themes for this week's chapter, we've got powers not solving mundane problems of parahumans. Hardly ever do the powers that the parahumans receive help them with their actual problems.
No.
They just make new problems that they can solve. Yeah, we see that throughout the chapter with, of course, like her mom and how, like, she's much better at attempting to murder people than she is at attempting to help her mom.
Yep.
And then, did you want to talk about this next thingamajig?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we should talk about this in themes or whatever, but Aisha's power and mindset lining up really succinctly, kind of in a similar way as they do with, because everybody's power and mindset or trigger event are going to line up in some way, but this is like a really direct, like, this is the way that I think, and my power functions in the exact way.
Right, yeah.
So that's good to see.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that is stuff to keep in mind, and we can move on to your summary.
Yeah. So, let's see. Sigma says parahuman powers are much more like Molotov cocktails. Add one into the mix and boom, right away you have a different problem. Very true.
Exactly, like Jason Mendoza would tell us.
So a couple named Celia and Sam are crassly bickering back and forth before setting up lines on the coffee table in front of them. Sam asks Celia why it looks like she's not gonna indulge and have any, and Celia's like, "You idiot, I told you I was pregnant."
I told you, Perjurnat, already.
Yeah. And he's like, "You're too old to be pregnant." And then their friend Jennifer enters the room, who we don't know anything about except that Sam calls her a fat ass. So, Jennifer is perturbed to find that they're digging into the stash that they have. She didn't think that they'd actually be using it. And Celia explains that she and Sam swiped just like this one brick of drugs from the merchants while others were like trying to carry off stockpiles. She doesn't like, she's like, we played it smart, but like doesn't explain what happened to these other people. I'm assuming they probably all killed each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I just got the impression that they were sneakier and that all the other people were doing the, like, same thing that happened inside the, like, what do you call it, Skidmark Square, where he threw everybody inside. Essentially just murdering each other as quick as possible to get all the stuff.
Yeah. Phil's asking what this art style is called. I'm not exactly sure if you're gonna do like it's just kind of like a sketchy or a crosshatch style. But
Yeah, I was gonna say there's like a lot of hatching and there's some cross hatching.
Yeah, I'm pretty lenient with my like styles and blending different elements or whatever. So there's kind of a blend. But yeah, imagine if this was done on one of those little scritchy black sheets of paper where you scratch the black parts away.
Mm-hmm. I will say this is like close. This is kind of close to the main art style that I use when I draw in pencil, which is almost all cross hatching.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it's kind of like an easy style almost, which
Hmm.
I like because it means you can make something that looks good even if you like for my like just pen work or pencil work is much worse
Hmm.
than yours, so I can't really do a lot of the complicated stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the benefit of doing it over digital is
Even if you screw
you
up.
can change things around a lot. Like you saw, I was really unhappy with the composition at the beginning, and so after I like drew everything out because I knew that I wasn't happy with it, then I was able to just kind of rearrange everything as I had actually envisioned it. Vale says it's very Aisha, super representative of her power somehow. Really cool. Yeah, thank you. I also find like this like stark, as silly and goofy as she is, like she's kind of dreary.
Yeah,
So like
like
this
when she's
stark like black
alone,
and white.
she just like it she does do some of the quips to the air, but they don't seem very like it doesn't seem enthusiastic, and like in her head
Hmm.
she doesn't quip at all. Like that's something we noticed. She's just sort
Yeah.
of like very very dry, and like
Yeah.
she isn't the front that she puts up, I guess.
Yeah. She's kind of like just kind of sadder than Taylor, to be honest. Her colorful personality on the team is largely defensive front. Yeah, I agree. Um, So they're talking about how they played it smart and didn't try to like take more drugs than they could like fight for, basically. And they're planning on selling what they don't end up using. And they seem to think it's gonna let them be set for 5 years or so, which is crazy given the fact that a bunch of other civilians also have these drugs now. Like the people who are using the drugs now have them, but whatever.
I think that they would be willing to just up and leave the area to
Hmm.
like now we live in I don't know, not Jersey. I was like, where would they go? Now they live in fucking Boston or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They could just kind of do whatever. Um,
I guess
so
Philadelphia's close
Jennifer
by too.
is still pretty hesitant as to what the drugs are. It's like a white powdery substance, so I would have assumed that it was coke. Um, but Celia and Sam aren't really sure. They were just gonna go for it.
I was gonna say
And
the problem is that there are other white powders that, if snorted, will just like kill you
yeah.
because they're injection
So
drugs.
Sam tastes a little bit of the powder and he decides that it's heroin, which they call H throughout the chapter. Jennifer goes to sit down, and poor Aisha has to jump up out of the chair to not get sat on, which is funny. And now this is a like he did such a better job this chapter than like the previous chapters where there was a vague like outside
The hidden
voyeuristic
the hidden
third party.
narrator in this is good. Like this is
Yeah.
the first one that really hits for me.
Yeah, the hidden narrator is perfect and it totally fits like Aisha's stance here and how she like it seems like she does this kind of thing a lot. Like she just stands places and like watches what's happening and doesn't really interact.
Vale says my
Um
non-expert understanding was H is like a clay tan color. I don't have any interest in googling that to find out. Yeah, I don't really know that much. I just know that it probably isn't the best idea to have a substance where you're like, I don't know what this is, and then snort
I
it.
know. And then they just like line it up and then he's like, "Well, I know how to test." And then he like tastes it or whatever. National Drug Intelligence Center says it's white or off-white.
2 plus
Have
4
a
times
great
5
shift.
is leaving, so
Yep, have a
goodbye.
great
Happy
shift.
birthday.
Bye. Um, so Aisha is less upset about like the whole scene with like the drugs and stuff and more focused on the fact that her mom Celia is pregnant. Which I would be too. So Celia asks for some papers for a joint, and Sam pushes back, and he's like, "You're supposed to be clean, Mister. You're too old to be pregnant." Sam is a hypocrite.
You
Um,
hypocrite.
you hypocrite. She says, "It's weed, dumbass. Nothing they tell you about it is true." Which, like, go off, Celia. Um,
But also, that is part of the problem with the mass disinformation campaigns about
yeah.
weed, is that, like, the vast majority of people don't know what the real truth is because there's been so
Mm,
much, like, faked stuff said.
yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah. I don't know anything about weed's effect on pregnancy, but I'm going to go off and say that you're not even supposed to have caffeine or raw fish when you're pregnant, so you probably shouldn't be smoking weed.
Probably.
Probably. So Sam is pretty easily convinced, and he hands her the papers and the bag of weed. Aisha thinks to herself that maybe it's better if the baby ends up being miscarried and basically spared from the same life that Aisha has had. Like, she thinks that, but it seems like things have accelerated since Aisha has left. Like,
Yeah,
the
it's not
fact
like a.
that,
It's not going to be a similar upbringing. Like, her mom is, like, deeply, deeply in a weird. Like, the gang is gone, but she's enmeshed in a culture of the remnants of, like, the worst. Well, the second worst gang in Brockton Bay.
yeah,
Brockton
and
Bay's pretty
she's
bad.
and the city has been totally destroyed, and her mom's game plan is essentially
Drug
to
merchant.
become a
Like,
drug dealer. Yeah. Which is just, no matter what you think of that, like, having a parent whose main source of income
is
is
illegal.
illegal is not the best idea for raising a child. Um, but yeah. So, yeah, Aisha gets kind of like triggered into thinking about the specific men that Celia had brought into the home and had harmed her to some degree, and likens it to looking for a distraction from a broken arm. If you're looking for a distraction, then it just reminds you why you're needing the distraction in the first place. This is also the same thing that Jamie said in her chapter, like, don't tell me to think of a blue elephant, right?
Right, yeah, yeah.
Um, but and the fact that her team like
Actually, I want to just take a moment, I guess, to say this is like a good version of that where they're using the same concept but from different angles. It's like the good equivalent of when he uses the same like analogy or whatever multiple times throughout the book.
uh
Like I know it's a long book, but I think he uses the like the firm oak breaks and the supple willow does not three times in Worm, I
oh
think,
yeah.
and it's kind of like two is already pushing it.
Um, Vale said she's standing on the ledge of an overdose. Thinking of a broken arm was one such reminder. I didn't hear that context before listening in earlier. And then, i.e., one of the BFs broke her arm?
Yeah.
No,
Well, that's what I
yeah.
thought, is that like she was saying that among the many things that was like that was a literal instance of it
Oh, okay.
because
I
she.
hadn't gotten that.
Okay, let's look at the line. I think it's pretty good, but broken.
Um,
Okay, so
let's.
yeah, I'm gonna read out the whole paragraph, I guess. I should try not to think about the men. It was like having a broken arm. So long as she didn't move it, so long as she didn't think about it, it was okay. A dull throb in the back of her mind, something she could ignore. But even a stray thought could remind her that the arm was broken. Then it sometimes took days before she could get out of that headspace. There was no distraction that worked, because the fact that she was consciously looking for a distraction only reminded her of what she was trying to distract from. Of course, there was no way to avoid the countless reminders in everyday life that would remind her of Guy, Bridge, Darren, or Lonnie. Thinking about a broken arm was one such reminder.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that last line there, I think.
Yeah. I think that Vale was also saying this is the first time that he had caught that when listening today.
Got it. Yeah. Vale said, Supple Willow was exactly what I was thinking, and I agree. When I saw that repeated, it jumped out at me. I never noticed that before that listen today. It was really sad to notice, but made sense. Yeah, that's cool. I've never noticed that before. I like that. I don't know. I feel like it's a really good writing moment.
Yeah. I think it's good because it's just everything in this chapter. I think is clipped down. Like one of the reasons it's so short is because like it's all pretty straight to the point as far as whatever's happening or being said.
Hmm.
It seems like some chat. Not that he has a lot of fluff in a lot of chapters, but just this
Hmm.
is even more direct, I guess.
Yeah. I agree. So another one of those reminders is the fact that she felt really dismissed by her teammates and that they just want her to play along for everybody else's sake. And it reminds her of the boyfriend who would like bribe her to leave the apartment, presumably so that they could like spend time with her mom or whatever and do drugs and have sex or whatever. So it seems that throughout the day, Aisha is getting triggered by lots of little moments, and it's a good explanation as to why she like kind of overreacts every time somebody is telling her what to do. It's because she's reacting to the fact that she's had presumably dozens of random ass men telling her what to do like throughout her whole life.
Yeah, I was gonna say like if we didn't talk about it in the summary that which we are now, that her this is a good chapter to get someone who can't understand Aisha and like how she acts to be able to understand where she's coming from, I think.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like the Rachel chapter where like it brings people around on Rachel who can't with just the abstract description of what might have happened like
Hmm.
sort of see what that actually entails. And this is like obviously a totally different scenario, but it's similar in what it does narratively, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so what does she do? She's talking about the boyfriend. Oh, so Celia goes to smoke her joint. They call it a spliff. Is there a difference between a spliff and a joint? Am I embarrassing myself?
Well, I believe a spliff has tobacco as well, so it's even worse for the
Oh,
baby because
oh
tobacco is
God.
super bad for babies. Like even worse than like the other stuff that you're not supposed to do. I think tobacco
Yeah.
is supposed to be awful. So let's see.
Well, when she goes to take a draw, she exclaims because there's something else in the weed. And then she's like,
No,
what
I
is
guess
that?
it's just no, it's just a synonym for joint. I was wrong.
Vale said Spliff also has raw fish and caffeine. Good one. But it turns out to be amphetamine. And then she's like, "Oh, it's amphetamine. This is terrible." And then she just keeps smoking it. Um,
Oh wait, no, I scrolled down further, and in the United States, a spliff is just generally known to have tobacco with it, like mixed.
well, if this was, it depends then if it's Aisha calling it a spliff or Wildbow calling it a spliff.
Well, I think the in this case, I think the Canadian slang would probably just be the same.
Hmm.
But
That's funny. So it not only has it's not only weed, but it also has tobacco and it also has amphetamine in it, which I don't exactly know what that is, but from Google it seemed like that's like a common additive.
yeah, well, let's see. Well, we're already googling spliff. Amphetamine. Amphetamine. Stimulants that speed up the body's system.
Oh
So
no.
she's taking uppers and downers at the same time with the baby.
Uh, and the baby's probably spazzing out in there, dude.
I don't think we're so supposed
Well,
to say that.
sorry. she she encourages Jennifer again to partake in the H, but Jennifer is really hesitant and doesn't want to take it because it's addictive. Um, Aisha considers just stealing all the drugs, and maybe that would encourage her mom to get her life back on track. But Aisha figures that it would just mostly cause somebody to get angry and possibly violent about everything going missing. So like this seems like a song and dance she's been through before, that it's typical for either her mom or the people she associates with to like just
I
flip
just
the fuck
imagine it's
out.
both. Like her mom
Yeah.
seems like the type of person who flips the fuck out all the time.
Yeah, who would like also engage in the violence.
Yeah.
Um, so Aisha just takes the joint from her mom's mouth and she grinds it with her shoe. And Celia's like, "Oh, that's weird." And
Where'd it
goes to
go?
reach for. She's like, "Oh, where'd it go? Ah, must be high." And then she goes to reach for the rolling papers, and Aisha just puts her hand on top of them.
Where'd they go?
Um, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And so Celia asks Sam for more papers. And then this is when Aisha starts trying to talk to her mom, and she tells her that she needs to stop, and her kid is going to get all fucked up like she is, with all the learning problems that she had in school, and then the fact that Brian never experienced those either, like, makes it very clear that it was her her mom like went downhill at a certain point and was negligent towards Aisha's pregnancy in a way that she wasn't towards Brian, which I can assume it probably leads to some resentment towards Brian as well. Um, because like
Yeah.
that's tough, dude.
Well, the other thing is like I think it's clear that from my perspective, it's like kind of obvious that Celia's decline has been like a steady decline. So as bad as things might have been in the past, I don't
Mhm.
think that she would have joined the merchants if this happened when they were like I don't know 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's just been a kind of constant downhill.
Yeah.
But yeah, she tells her mom that she's going to OD before the kid even gets a chance to grow up, and that it's super unfair for the kid and to Brian. She also says like several offensive things during this that we can talk about later.
Yeah, she goes
Um,
Rachel core on this.
yeah, she really does. But during her speech, her mom and Sam are arguing about the rolling papers. And Aisha wonders if she's just being a coward for not actually confronting her. And maybe once Quail takes over the city, everything will be perfect and she can get her some proper help. Um, which is, I mean, kind of fair because Quayle claims that he's like, I wanted the city to be a great place and not be like the drug den that it currently is.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that there's it's weird because like from Aisha's perspective, there's no real reason to not think that he's going to do that, but it seems like she would be the type of person to baseline not believe him, like how Rachel
ye-
baseline doesn't believe him.
yeah, exactly. And also the fact that like she wasn't even in the group when they decided to join him, like that's one of the things that she's just being like pulled into
But it also could have been like
because
super convincing whatever Lisa said to her.
oh, that's true.
I'm assuming it was like
Lisa,
Lisa who sort of like semi indoctrinated her into the group, you know what I mean?
yeah, Lisa does do that. Um, Right now, though, Aisha's wanting to focus on herself and proving her role in the Undersiders, which I think that's the main personality split that's happened before and after her trigger. Like at the time, well, I guess it's the thing. Maybe she felt like she was proving her role in like her new friend groups or whatever, with like like the cool bad kids or whatever that she was hanging out with. And now she is not focused on that and just wants to be like accepted and respected in the group.
Mm-hmm.
Vale says, does Coyle ever tell Aisha what to do even a single time? She might think he's a great leader because he doesn't tell her not to do dangerous things or try to tell her actually to do anything. That's probably true. It's all coming from Brian right now, which is like just not her favorite.
Yeah. Also, we missed Vale's comment earlier. Well, we just didn't read it out yet. The uppers and downers at the same time even out, though. It's all good.
Yeah. So Aisha heads to her old bedroom and starts sifting through her closet and kind of reminisces on the different eras of clothing and items. She adds in some notebooks, a tape recorder, and a pair of binoculars to her pack that she had in her closet. She leaves the house and heads to where the Slaughterhouse 9 merchants attack happened, which she deducted from what her mom was talking about. She arrives at the crime scene and it's full of police and PRT. The streets are still like covered in blood and bodies that have been covered in sheets. I like didn't parse that when I was reading the chapter at first that like they just stole the drugs probably like an hour or two ago and they're like, all right, let's crack them open.
Yep.
After like probably seeing like all of the like blood and bodies and disaster. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
this is the next morning after all of the people in their same gang got, like, massacred. And, like,
Yeah,
if they had just been at the event of their own gang, they would have also been
they would have
murdered. And
also
not, like,
died.
just died, like, probably in some awful way.
In some pretty rough
Like
ways.
getting the I honestly think the bulge till you explode, I know it's not that long of a death, but not great. I think bulge till you
Probably
explode is pretty bad.
probably does not feel great.
Yeah.
Um, the she kind of like searches around the crime scene, but the evidence here doesn't really give her any lead. So Aisha wanders around the adjacent blocks and she finds a trail of blood that extends further than the other many trails of blood. This is so funny to me that they're like incredibly easy to track because they're like just always drenched in blood after one of their like raves or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Um, Greg says Slaughterhouse 9 do love their ultraviolence. Yeah. Ultraviolence by Lana Del Rey is their favorite. Um,
Yeah.
she continues following the trail, but the rain is kind
I
of
bet Jack's favorite book is fucking Clockwork Orange. She's like, "Yeah,
yeah,
I just love it. They're so, like, original, and they're so me. You know, nobody
honestly
else
he
really
would.
captures me like that book."
We could do that. We can do the at the end Slaughterhouse 9, each character's favorite book because we do get to see them do some reading during this. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um but yeah, she's kind of wandering around and sees a detective outside a building. So like the cops have also been tracking them. They just like aren't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which like makes is totally fair. They're just like don't come into this building. Um, but she goes in and enters and finds that there's more blood leading up the stairs, and she enters the apartment that contains the Slaughterhouse 9. Um, it's like this cozy scene with like Crawler as the cat, like taking a nap in the corner.
Yeah,
I
Crawler
think
is
she even mentions,
Felix.
yeah, she like even mentions like his paws like crossed over each other or something like that, and it's like, aw. And then Shatterbird and Burnscar are reading on the couch, but like Burnscar is like laying across the couch and her legs are over Shatterbird. It's like, aw, they're so cute. And then like right around the corner, I said Bonesaw unfortunately ruins the vibes, because she's in the kitchen performing surgery on a non-consenting civilian,
Mm-hmm.
and she just
Of course.
describes that all of his ribs are like pried open, like in a way that wouldn't be the case in a normal surgery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
Yeah. So
displayed fully
Aisha,
open.
yeah, pretty gross. Aisha momentarily freaks out about Bonesaw's mechanical spiders, but they don't seem to notice her. I don't think that they have like AI, you know what I mean? So they just kind of do their thing.
I think they have
Um,
like a biological brain.
yeah. It seems like, yeah, that would make sense. If they have a biological brain, then they wouldn't be able to see her because they're not functioning through like cameras and stuff the way that dragons mechs are.
Mm-hmm.
So Aisha considers slitting Chatterbird's throat, but she's like, "Oh, but everyone will just freak out and kill me." And then she like goes over to Bonesaw and thinks the same thing, and it's like it's literally the same thing. Just because you're a room over isn't gonna stop everyone from freaking out and killing you.
Yeah.
Um, but she's like standing behind Bonesaw considering what to do, and she hears
I
a
think the
weird.
idea is that she would run and then continue running.
Yeah, that's true. But she hears a weird squeaking sound and she's like, "What is that?" And is like looking around and then she realizes that the man on the table is trying to talk and Bonesaw mocks him because she's a huge bitch.
Yeah,
She's
she
like,
really
"You're
is.
gonna have to speak up, Jonathan." And she is currently holding his like beating heart in her hands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's all that it takes for Aisha. And she just stabs Bonesaw in the throat, which I don't know exactly what that looks like. I would never do a stab, you know what I mean? Not in the throat.
Uh, I guess I see how that goes, because if you stab and then you just wrench it around a lot, that's probably pretty good.
Yeah, it does sound like that's what she's doing. And I think that she's behind her because she's like not seeing that it doesn't uh penetrate in the way that it should because Bonesaw starts screaming, which Aisha's like, "Whoa, it doesn't that come from your throat? Like how is she screaming?" And she pulls the knife out and so she like slits it instead since obviously the stab didn't work. And Bonesaw just like keeps screaming and freaking out, but there's no blood or anything. Vale said, "I doubt Jack would be a readist." A readist. To be fair, decent reason to stab
I
someone.
think
Yeah,
he is
that's
a
true.
readist. He does quote some literature. Um, I mean, he may be kind of a basic bitch, but I think he does read some things.
Yeah, I feel like um probably because Wildbow is a reader, like there's a disproportionate amount of readers uh in the Parahumans books. But I like that
I
because
tried to
it's fun and
convince
cute.
someone to read recently, uh, and it like part of what I was like saying because we were talking about like a script basically, and I had just
Hmm.
said like, but the difference between like a script and a book is the whole thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. No, people are like in my adult experience, there's just like a huge percentage of people who are like I do not read and I will not read. I feel like it's like how I feel about like working out or whatever. Like to me, it's like normal that somebody in their life would just never work out past high school. But it's like crazy to me that somebody would just never read past high school, and there's just a ton of people who do that.
yeah. Like I
And I'm
definitely
and
know
I'm sure
people
it's
who have
vice
like
versa.
never enjoyed a book. So,
Yeah.
which is kind of like,
Yeah.
I mean, even when I had all my I mean, still have reading problems, but when I was a kid and didn't read very much, I still listened to tons of audiobooks. So there's never
Hmm.
been a part of my life where I wasn't like engaging in tons of different like children's or like older books.
Literature.
Yeah, because like it
Yeah.
was mostly kids books with the audiobooks, but I was still like getting a lot out of it because it was
Mhm.
mostly the same value as reading without straining my little brain. So
Yeah. I mean, I heard that there's studies that listening to audiobooks basically stimulates the same part of the brain. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't stimulate the like actively reading part, like the eyes doing it,
Mm.
but like you're experiencing a really similar thing. But it's weird being like I do like half audiobooks, half reading or whatever, but I do feel like audiobook listeners are like, "Oh yeah, I read, but it's audiobooks." Like everybody has to like just clarify that because
Well, the
it's
reason
like
I
a weird
couch it is
touchy
because
subject.
people are like weird
People are
about the
weird
fact
about
that I'm a
it.
slow reader. Like,
Yeah.
they'll be like, I thought you read a lot. And it's like, well, that hasn't really improved things on this front.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah.
Vale said, I think Jack went on patrol with Cherish because the team reading books was annoying to him. He wanted to meditate on carrots and sticks. Yeah, that could definitely be it.
That guy loves
On the
carrots.
topic of people not reading, when I find someone who does like to read, I am instantly their friend until proven otherwise. Yeah. I don't know, I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting being an adult now and interacting with people who are like anti-reading. Like, why would you do that to yourself kind of thing. And it's the same thing, like that's how I am with working out. Like, why would you want to do that to yourself? So I understand the sentiment.
Yeah, I'm basically with you on the working out. Like, I literally do work out sometimes, and whenever people talk about like actually going to the gym, I'm just like, what is your life that you spend like several hours every day doing this? Like, that's
And
crazy to me.
we just love it. Um, okay, so what are we going on about? Oh yeah, Aisha's stabbing, Bonesaw screaming. Um, Aisha like starts just like she does the stab in the throat, then she does the slit in the throat, and then that's obviously not working. So she stabs her in the eye. Probably learned that one from Taylor. The other three, Slaughterhouse 9, start to spring into action at the invisible threat as Bonesaw continues to not die. And Burn Scar's like, "Is it Jack?" And
I do
Bonesaw
love
says
that
that,
part.
yeah, Bonesaw says that he would have known about their safeguards. And Crawler mentions that he can't smell anyone, which is like cool news for Aisha. That's the other thing is that people can't smell Aisha and they also can't smell Brian. And so like even if their powers aren't related, that is also very funny.
Yeah, yeah. I hadn't thought about that overlap. I also think that like one person uh let's think. So she like closes doors and stuff. She can do like big actions almost and people don't
Mhm.
notice.
Oh
So
yeah.
like she's covered on most bases except cameras right now, right? And emotion sensing people.
Yes.
Which
She's
sadly
she
there's like multiple of those in the city or whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately. Um,
Oh, I guess
Vale also
not. Gallant's
said,
dead.
Vale said, also, how can anyone do the gym experience and not listen to audiobooks to make it bearable? Totally. Um, but Bonesaw starts chiming in and she's like, I'll be fine once I fix myself. And then she starts talking about all of the like eye alterations that she can do for herself. And Chatterbird cuts her off and she's
She's
like, it's
basically
the
like, "Shut up, you
principle.
twit."
She's like, I don't care that you're not dead. Like, it's the fact that somebody busted down our door and started trying to murder us.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, which is a fair response. But Aisha slips behind Crawler and leaves the apartment. And in the lobby, she finds the detective that had been that had been outside is now dead, with trails of blood leading elsewhere in the building.
They kill
So
people like
she,
so frequently. It's just like, of course that guy's dead now.
yeah. And like that's the thing, they clearly knew that the Slaughterhouse 9 were in there, so I don't know why they were standing guard. Like it seems
Play
weird. It
stupid
seems like they
games,
should have
win stupid
evacuated.
prizes.
Exactly. I don't know what the cops were thinking. It should have at least been a PRT agent. Not that the PRT agents are more skilled, but they have the foam.
Yeah, and they have the armor, which like is literally effective against Jack.
Yeah, and they have like more direct contacts to the capes.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
silly. Now
Yeah.
they're gone.
I can I can only assume they were standing there for a minute while waiting for like a hero to come stand guard or something. Um,
Hmm.
but she totally bodies like right into Jack, and Cherish is also with her. Jack and Cherish converse, and Cherish drags a body around while Jack waits for her. He's being like, "You dumb bitch, this is what you do for us now."
You carry
I
bodies.
Yeah,
I
this
don't.
is
I don't
your
know why
role
they're
in our group.
hiding. I don't. I'm not sure why they're hiding the body. I guess.
I don't know. They're just goofing off. Maybe they're hiding it from Bonesaw, like they don't want her to like be playing with anything, like they need to leave soon or something.
Yeah.
Bill says, doesn't he tell her to get a mop too?
Yeah.
Get back in the kitchen, you woman. That's what Jack is doing right now, honestly. Um, But Aisha comes to the conclusion that as the newest member, Cherish probably doesn't have whatever safeguards Bonesaw did, especially because it seems like she's only been with them for like a couple weeks. So she follows Cherish and shuts
Well,
the
the
door
thing is,
behind them.
Cherish has. She thinks that, but Cherish was like, um, I think fully like integrated as far as Bonesaw's stuff, like right away. So
Yeah, I can only assume that it's like immediately after the challenges that they do those things because it's literally such a pain for them to replace members.
yeah.
Yeah. But Aisha thinks a lot of things. Aisha loves making assumptions. So,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, she follows
Well,
Cherish into
it's kind of like the
Go
way
ahead.
Taylor does too sometimes, where
Hmm.
it just feels right in the moment, and then you're like, oh, she was wrong, and so I was wrong because I believed her.
Yeah. Yeah, I always believe her too, but like when she hits Weld or whatever and she's like, "Oh, he must have been hot or something."
It's like, you're so dumb. We know that's so wrong.
It's so funny. Um, so Cherish like turns towards Aisha and is like, "Put the weapon away." And Aisha asks if she can hear her, but Cherish doesn't respond. So it's clear for us that like she's sensing that there's someone in the room, so she can feel her with her emotion power, but she is still subject to the rest of her power. Um, so Cherish turns around and repeats herself, and she's like looking around in the room for Aisha, but can't find her. And Cherish says they only have a few moments before Jack gets suspicious, and she wants to strike a deal. Dun dun dun.
Bam. Cliffhanger.
Yeah,
Stinger.
love it.
Um, yeah, a shockingly short chapter for how much happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I feel like it was really well paced.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
there were some portions of the uh what is her name? Jamie chapter that like I could tell that they were like badly paced because it was really hard to like even find anything of substance to include in the write-up for it. You know what I mean? Like it was so there was like weird gaps where there was a ton of information and then there were gaps where there was literally nothing except for like a setup for something later.
Yeah, like I
But
went into a room, I talked to a person, like
mhm,
really just like boilerplate an event happened and it didn't weave
yeah.
in much, which like this weirdly is very straight to the point compared to that writing, but
Mhm.
is like less there's no like bland moments, I don't think.
Yeah, it's really straight to the point. We get, and even though we don't have any flashbacks for Aisha, we still get like a lot of insight into her character and her background. I feel like this is like a really I don't know. I really like this chapter. And I think that he pulled off a lot of the things. For example, the third party perspective that he's been starting out some of his chapters with, like he did it perfectly here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had said this sort of ties into what we were saying, so I'll just say the arc stuff now. This is another one of the bonus Patreon chapters. So he's hit some specific milestone on Patreon, and then we got another interlude that was thrown in on the fly. So far, we've got Lisa, Dragon, Jamie, and now Aisha. And I think it was another success in taking the chapter that's outside of the regular structure that had been happening in the story so far, and then give the audience a bunch of side information that is like, the Jamie one is more removed. All the other three are like concurrent with Taylor in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And this gives us tons of insight into what's happening, not only like with the defenses of the Slaughterhouse Nine, with where Aisha left to, because, that is going to be a plot line that we pick up again later with the deal she was trying to make and blah, blah, blah. So, Vale says, I think part of why Jamie's chapter does less is because she's not a deep character. Aisha has a ton of depth. Jamie, there wasn't as much to explore. Yeah, there kind of isn't. There's not much more to say about her than what happens in her chapter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we could just get tons of dramatic tension by knowing this stuff's happening in the background of Taylor's chapters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the characterization was really good. Like, it's not like the writing style was incredibly different from a Taylor chapter, and yet Aisha's personality really shines through.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, the weird structure of the 13.5 name. We just are going to call this episode 13.x, and the chapter that is 13.x in the book we're going to call 13.y.
I know. I think he just wasn't sure what to do with the bonus chapters because I think he was really like planning on sticking with the original one interlude per arc format. That probably was it. This was
thank
the first
God he didn't.
web serial he posted, right?
Yes, he had never.
So
I don't think he published any thing even. I don't even know if he was publishing short stories before this. He might have been, but I think he was working by himself, not posting the work, and he just like came out the gate with like, I think it's several of the arc 1 chapters, if not all of arc 1, and then kept the steady pace. And then I know that the Purity interlude was an apology interlude for missing a chapter or something like that. And I don't think he ever missed a chapter again. He had a chapter in arc 7 that he totally rewrote because he thought, based on the community reaction, that the battle was not very comprehensible. And it happened while he was like doing a move. But yeah, he just like consistently kept doing the work. And like that's why he got better, was the just repetition of always doing writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree with you that like even some of the subtle differences in the way the characters think and the way that the information's presented to us like really shows. Like Aisha doesn't think about what people look like at all. So
yeah, the only thing that she mentions is that her mom is dark skinned, and like we already knew that. So
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Vale says this was the first thing ever posted. Chapter 1, Arc 1 was even while he was still in college. He decided to post it because he was writing so much and editing it constantly, but never actually doing anything to share it. Just a line draw, declared his intention to post Tuesday, Saturday, then did it. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that is part of the inspiration of why I didn't, like, do a lot of prep. I decided to stream, and then I think it was a week and a half later, and I did the first stream, and so far we haven't missed a week, so I want to keep that up.
Yeah, it's been really consistent.
Yeah, do we want to jump down to the characters?
Yeah, you had something written here.
Yeah, before we get to the meat of the character section, I just wanted to say that I noticed Bonesaw's victim was named Jonathan, meaning we have found yet another in the small lists that are reused within Parahumans. However,
I
it's
think
not
I
someone
think
we
we're
meet
at
for a while.
4 though. Okay, because we
It's
have,
Chris,
well, we
Eric.
have Chris and Christopher, um, which like is questionable, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that like before, like in this era, what's his name? Kidwin like goes by Chris to his friends. So like
Oh,
it's
okay.
like, you know, he's nom de plume or whatever the fuck. The name
Mm-hmm.
that people know him by.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. And then there's the other questionable one is Jamie and Jamie because Jamie as in Battery, her real name is not Jamie.
mhm,
That is just what we call her in the chapter. And then
true.
the other Jamie is the guy who makes the fucking monster things. What's his name? Bog. Some shit.
Jamie Rink.
Huh.
Nilbog.
No Bog, there we go. And then there were the 2 little brother characters, little shithead brothers that both have the same name, but I don't remember what that name is.
Wait, which two little brothers that have the same name?
Sierra's little brother
Oh, Bryce.
and Bryce. Yeah, Bryce and Bryce. Uh,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other Bryce was Rain's lady's little brother.
right, so we got Bryson. So how many is that so far? That's
So I
Chris,
think we're at 4 with the Jonathans.
Bryce, Eric, and Jonathan? Or did I just miss one already?
Oh, which was it? Who is Eric?
Eric is a character near the end of Ward as well as Shielder.
Oh, okay. So we're at there, then there's 5.
What's the one I
Uh,
missed on my little list there?
Jamie,
Jamie. Okay, we just
Bryce,
went over that, yeah.
Chris,
Bryce,
Eric,
Eric,
and
and
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Cool. Well, 5 so
Pretty
far.
good. Yeah. I think that Wildbow like really improves his naming. I feel because when I first started reading Worm, I was like, "Oh my
You
God,
did
these
hate the
people's
names.
characters."
You're
It
like
just
Taylor,
it was
Rachel,
Taylor,
Brian.
Lisa, Rachel, Brian. Like they're literally all like 2-syllable and like basic ass names
Yeah.
that but he really
Yeah,
gets his shit
all
together.
6 Undersiders of the original set, like up to the point when they have Aisha, it's
Hmm.
all 2-syllable basic names, essentially. Aisha's
Yeah.
slightly more out of the norm, but like not really.
Yeah. Definitely a lot more out of the norm than a
Any of the rest of
Brian
them, yeah.
and a Lisa.
Yeah.
Vale feels attacked. Vale, I don't know your name. I'm sorry. Are you one
To
of
me,
those?
your name is a 1-syllable name.
Personally attacked. I now shall look at myself as basic as 2-syllable named person. It's not just if it's a 2-syllable name, okay? It was just the fact that they were all 2-syllable names. Alan. Oh my gosh. That's one of his
Oh, that's
basic names
no, that's
too.
one of the multi
Alan Richter.
names. That's number
Oh, it
6.
is?
Because Alan Richter and then Alan Mannequin.
Oh, you're
Number
right.
6. And I know that if we didn't talk about it by the end of the episode, then even now we're gonna get a post because it took us too long to remember, and
Oh
it's gonna
my
be from 2
God.
plus 4 times 5 being like,
2 plus 4
you
times 5.
idiots.
You
Yeah.
idiots didn't even think of Alan. Um,
Although
okay.
those Allens have 1 L, so Vale's standing out from the crowd a little bit. Um,
But I'm glad that he worked on his names, expanding them a bit. I don't know. So there's in the Slaughterhouse 9, there's Jack and there's Riley.
oh, Alan
Do we
Barnes,
know?
it's a triple.
Oh my gosh. Man, he loves that name. You
Yeah.
can just call me Bats for short.
Bat Snip?
Bat Snip. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that. I don't know what's happening.
That's okay. Let's talk about Aisha.
Yes.
Aisha's a cool ass motherfucker. She is kind of uh she makes assumptions that don't really make sense. Like she's like, what if I just steal these drugs and then my mom gets help? But like she does refute her on that, but like how would that ever do anything?
Yeah.
Um and then like the fact that she went to go fight the Slaughterhouse Nine by herself, even though everyone told her it was a bad idea in the first place, not a great choice. Um, she's about to make a deal with Cherish, and we all know Cherish is a huge idiot.
Yeah, Cherish is like one of the dumbest characters. Like,
hmm
she's very dangerous and a real sicko, but she's a dummy too.
hmm Yeah. Um, let's see. Greg says it's like Toad Swallow. Is it Toad's Wallow or Toad Swallow? Best when it's both. Because joking isn't obvious in text, I'm completely joking. It just made me laugh. Okay. Um, yeah. What are some other things? I mean, we talked a little bit about her power functions almost exactly the same as her trauma responses, where she can only move for so in accordance with her trauma, she feels that she can only move forward if she's not thinking about it or if she's distracting herself from it. um but she's constantly reminded of it, and then when she's reminded of it, she's like, oh, I need to distract myself from it, and then she's thinking about it because she's thinking about distracting herself from it. And I didn't
Mhm.
go into her explaining this, but Aisha's power is actually always on, and only when she's thinking about the power is when it shuts off.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note. Uh, and I don't know if there's like a metaphor here, but I'm just now thinking about like the fact that the Vasil family members, like Alec and Cherish, are able to sense her. Like, I think power interactions are kind of supposed to represent like personality interactions in a way.
Mhm.
So that's going to be, I guess, something to think about. I don't really know what it says about either party, but like the fact that she is able to be seen by him means that like
Yeah.
their relationship kind of grows based on that. Because like most people, except for Tattletale, don't notice her most of the time.
Yeah. Um, it's very sad, and she goes into her background more feeling that as if she was always invisible. I think even at some point she says like if she had had this conversation with her mom with her power off, she would have been even less likely to hear her. So she's been like very neglected in her life and like it seems like she had a big shift at some point to being like trying to be a good kid and like just being like really stressed and beaten down all the time to then acting out and like possibly like finding this friend group or whatever who she felt seen by and then like became very kind of started overcompensated with because when Brian talks about his sister at first. Like he never brings up the fact that, oh, it's going to be difficult to take care of Aisha, but I still want to do it. Or when he's talking about like his trigger event, he never says anything about Aisha being a difficult child or a difficult sibling or not wanting to interact with him.
And like
That part all seems
one of the
new.
things he brings up back then is in this trigger event story. Wow, I'm having a problem. In the trigger event story, is that he would help her with like one of the things she would send him messages about is helping with homework and stuff. So she was like trying to be a good student and stuff. That just sort of continues to support what you were saying, I guess.
Yeah. It seems like she had a big personality shift at some point, like previous to the Leviathan attack. Maybe when, like, probably right around the time when Brian was like trying to like complete the adoption and that kind of thing, then she started just, kind of doing her own thing.
Well, I was
Um,
wondering if she had, because in the time before we meet her, we only ever hear about her up to and before Brian's trigger event. Maybe that
mhm,
was like a big shift event for her, because in that, she went through a trauma, which is why he was even there.
yeah. Um, Vale said when Aisha is sleeping, what happens to her power? Like, is she potentially going to die in her sleep and nobody even remembers her to know it happened? I mean, I think that her power is probably on when she's asleep,
I
but
agree.
we don't ever see Aisha sleep, so I mean, it kind of like leads to that as well. But if she died, like I can only assume that her power would die with her, and so they would find her dead.
It's unclear to me what would happen exactly, because her power does, later on we learn, like, post hence, like, erode camera footage and stuff, and like
Hmm.
it has after effects that linger.
Yeah.
So but I
So
think it's most
Aisha.
like I have always kind of thought that her power would stop retroactively doing things once she didn't have an active corona palencia.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the case. I think that she could potentially die in her sleep. Yes. Like if there was somebody who could bypass her power and like choke her out or something while she was sleeping, like mm,
Or like if you
people would
sensed her
not
in a
know what's
building,
going
then
on.
fired a missile at her, like she was Breed or something.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I feel like Aisha's a really interesting character. I mean, and maybe part of that is like the like way that she acts on the inside is kind of more how she was outwardly until a certain point, and then she started kind of acting out and being like a real instigator because like what she does I think that everything that she does is like pretty much justified, like the way that she responds to the team and everything in like the last couple chapters. But when she comes and visits Brian and fucking causes problems with the caseworker and stuff and like has her change times to come while Brian's still getting ready, that's pretty fucked up.
While I understand why she left the meeting and stuff, I and I don't like think, oh, bad character action. I think that it is not really a reasonable response for her to go to the Slaughterhouse Nine, with the fact that, like, Tattletale, they're most like Tattletale's crazy. She'll tell you to go do anything. She
Yeah.
was like, I don't know. I don't think we should do this. I think they'll be able to sense you. And
Yeah.
then they do.
Vale said, "Leave it to Wildbow to write one of the best characters as literally the most forgettable." Listen, we'll never forget Aisha. She's an icon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, I think there was something else I wanted to mention that was like, I mean, we talked about her like internal starkness. Like she's not having a good time in her head. So I feel like that's her more like natural personality. And then the outward facade, we see she like performs even when she's all by
Yeah,
herself.
she's like performatively quipping, but she doesn't seem to enjoy it, and she doesn't think the thoughts in her head of that, so it's like
Yeah.
weirdly disconnected from her. Like, Taylor will think the quips, but not have the social confidence to say them. And
Yeah.
then Aisha's just like not even thinking about it, just spitting out whatever at all times.
Yeah. Aisha's really disconnected from her emotions. There's like lots of times in the chapter where she's like, I think I'm feeling this, but like has no explanation to them. Like when she first finds out that her mom is pregnant, she says she feels something like hope, but does not go into why at all. Like that's her like instinctive response and she completely defaults to like thinking about all of the horrible like all of the reasons that her mom shouldn't have another kid, which I also think she is really justified in. But she like multiple times throughout the chapter is like I think I'm feeling like this, but I also think that I'm feeling like this, and none of it's very strong. I actually think I'm not feeling anything.
Yeah, it's weirdly reminiscent of Alex. Like, I should be feeling blank. I should be doing blank, but he can never
Hmm.
really like commit to anything, or like he's like, but I don't feel it, even though
Yeah.
like it kind of seems like, but you do though.
But you do though, because you wouldn't have mentioned it. And I think that hers is like she starts to feel the feeling, and then when she tries to reach in to figure out what's going on, it dissipates, kind of like her power. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like hard for her to keep a grasp on because it like throughout the chapter it's like, well, I'm feeling upset about this, and then literally the next sentence is like, but when I tried to pursue that, it went away and I don't feel anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Said.
Sad. I believe in Aisha, and it's clear that she wants to be like more in touch with her emotions. It's just been something that she's probably had to push to the side for a really long time, because of her like poor upbringing and negligence. Like that's a really common reaction to being neglected is that, well, my needs aren't being met, so I should just stop having needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was gonna say like later on, Taylor's gonna be like, I'm worried about Aisha, like every chapter that she's around Aisha, and
Yeah.
I don't think that she needs to worry that much. Like,
Yeah.
it's good that she is in a way, but I don't think she's like giving Aisha enough benefit of the doubt in some of the instances.
Yeah, they definitely think that Aisha is somebody who they like need to be always watching out for and who they act like she's like somebody that they need to protect more than like literally anyone on the team.
But the thing is,
But
like Lisa also has just a regular ass human body, and like no, and she can be
mhm.
seen all the time.
Mhm.
And so it's like, well, we should give Aisha some benefit of the doubt. Like, she is
Yeah.
more
I-
physically capable than Lisa, like, flat
Yeah.
out.
And it's not like she's getting herself into pickles all the time. Like she was in this pickle, and I don't think she ever tells the team that this happened. Like she's just like, anyway, nobody needs to know that that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah, I don't think she ever tells them that she tried to stab the shit out of Bonesaw necessarily. Well,
Hmm.
actually, no, she does because they know about the damage to her later.
Mm.
But yeah. Anyway, so do we have anything more to say before we explicitly move on to the Celia and by extension Sam and Jennifer section?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I said that Celia is a less destructive version of Rachel's mom.
Yeah.
um, who we don't even like know anything about aside from the fact that she abandoned Rachel, you know?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Celia just kind of seems like a weird, I mean, maybe it's similar uh to Aisha in the sense that she also doesn't know like what to think or feel a lot of the time, because she like multiple times like tries to do something different in this chapter and then just is very easily like overtaken by the situation or by Sam and is like, okay. Like she thinks I'm not going to do drugs because I'm pregnant, but I can do this drug. And I start smoking this drug and I find out something else is in it. Oh my God, that's terrible. And then
Well,
like
it's
just
already
moves on.
happening.
Yeah, and then like same with Sam, like Sam is like being rude to her friend and
And rude to her. Like,
pisses
he's
out.
generally just a shitty dude.
I mean, he's just shitty in general and he pisses out their fire escape and she's like, "Don't do that." And he's like, "No, it's fine." And she's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Um yeah, just really like gives in to the men around her and then like she also starts pressuring her friend Jennifer to be doing the drugs, even though she's not doing them. And so I don't know, maybe it just like extends towards other people as well.
She seems like she could have a pretty good parahuman power too. Something about like I don't know. It would be like I see her as having like a weird breaker form that's like a
Hmm.
sticky goop, and it can either like get stuck and pulled along, or the person like physically tries to attack it and get stuck in it. So I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of weird stuff you could do that would be based around the way that she easily gives in and like sways, but is also like weird and randomly aggro.
Yeah. Um, the like history of like of Aisha and her mom. Aisha's obviously very, very bitter towards Celia, for even more than like her upbringing. She's upset at the fact that she has like these learning disabilities that were probably caused by, or at least contributed to, by her mom's drug and alcohol use while she was pregnant. She starts flipping out when she's going on a rant towards her. Aisha is saying like, your kid's gonna be born without a fucking face or something. Like it's gonna be even worse than me or whatever. Like
Right.
Aisha doesn't think great. Like she doesn't have great self-esteem, but at least she knows that like the things that she has like really big problems with aren't necessarily her fault. Like there's not something wrong with her in the sense that like she's doing anything wrong. She clearly understands that her learning disabilities come from her mom's actions during her pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the
It's
thing
very
she
sad.
says, they would tell her three things, and by the time they got to the third, she'd forgotten the first.
Yeah. Which, like, I guess at first glance sounds like ADHD. I don't think it's ADHD. Like she possibly like has fetal alcohol syndrome, which like a lot of people have and don't know about, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's those kinds of things that lots of people live with, but that for Aisha, like not only like it happening in the background, but seeing it happen to her unborn sibling is like making her really freak out. Which I would totally be freaking out too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, Celia.
Oh, Celia.
Oh, Celia. And like that's the thing, like Celia's not like, "Oh, I'm gonna get an abortion" or anything like that. She's like, "I told you I'm pregnant." Random guy that I've known. Celia and I guess I'll just mention Celia and Sam. We know that they barely know each other because when Celia is talking, he's like, "Oh, you're not one of those girls that just talks all the time, are you?" So like how long could they have known each other for him to respond like that?
Yeah, like a couple days, probably.
Yeah.
Tops.
It's pretty bad. Oh, he says, "You're not one of the talkative ones, are you? I like it quiet." That's what he says.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, maybe it's not Sam's kid, but like why would she tell him that she was pregnant if it wasn't his?
I
Super weird.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say about Celia per se.
Yeah. Nothing to say about Jennifer either. She's just like there to be uh to be a voice of a little bit of a voice of reason
I
that
think she's
nobody
also
listens to.
there so that we can see that the thing about pushing the hard drugs, where it's just
Yeah.
like, that's a classic Wildbow signal of this character is bad and also a bad influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily meant to be painted like perfect black and white or anything. Just
Hmm.
it's one of his like things that recurs a lot.
Hmm.
The dead merchants. There's piles of these guys.
There's just piles of these guys covered in sheets because I guess of how many like vehicles it's taking to like get rid of them.
Yep. Woof. I don't really have
Oh,
much more to say about them. We kind of talked about the
no.
stuff in Jack's chapter.
Yep, the merchants are dead and
Scrub's
yeah,
alive.
no. Scrub's the only one left.
Yeah. The cops, they seem to be like the detectives get killed. We already talked about how they're kind of like stupid for not immediately leaving the area when they realized that the Slaughterhouse 9 were there or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also all the like people CSIing that one area for probably no reason. Like we don't need to CSI the crimes. I mean, you could document it
We
with
know what
photos,
happened
but
here.
like it's the culprits are clear.
The culprits are clear. They left a giant trail of blood to the place that they're in, and you know exactly where they are. Like,
Yeah. It's so like the justice system is so weird and dumb like in real life too, where it's like you need these mounds and mounds of evidence, all this heaps of stuff for like a thing where you know who did it, and then that person will
mhm,
oft get off the case. But when
yeah.
there's kind of just like a small charge or like a person who is on the lower end of things, no need for
Hmm.
evidence. No need to like waste all this time stacking things up. You
Yeah.
did it because we say you did
Yeah.
it. Like that's
Yeah, or
generally most crimes.
we'll incarcerate people for DNA evidence or lie detector tests, which are not evidence. They are not like like
Or
lie
do you mean
detector tests
fingerprints?
specifically.
The
Uh,
fingerprints is the one of the really bad, atrocious ones.
well, that too, but DNA tests are not 100% like people pretend they are.
Mm,
Lie detector tests are not anything. Like they are not
right. It's
real.
like totally fake. Yeah.
It's just totally fake. Like it just depends on the person and how good you are at lying and lying to your body, basically.
Like the other thing is
Um,
if you can shock a person, like if you can make them emotionally like whoa, then you can make it look like they lied on the thing.
yeah,
So
like
you just need to startle somebody.
if somebody asked me if I like murdered somebody last week, I would probably have a reaction about it.
You would be startled by the question.
I would be so stressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, fingerprints as well. Like all of that kind of bullshit that we hinge pretty much everything on right now.
Hmm. But I mean, like what I'm saying is that for a lot of stuff, they just don't even have any of that. It's just I said so. Like
Hmm.
we think you did the crime, and we're right because we're an authority.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Greg said, I'd be startled too. How
How
did
did
they
they
know?
know? Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, I'm good moving on from the cops. Um,
Uh,
for Shatterbird, I thought they really reinforced her personality well, just built upon what's already there. The audacity
mhm.
that someone would attack us. How dare you?
So what do you think that Shatterbird was reading?
Oh, she's pretentious like Jack. She was maybe reading a history book. She talked about history specifically. Maybe she was reading
Oh,
up on how to brainwash Hookwolf.
yeah.
That seems
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
what her
She's
bag would
she's
be.
like reading up on the Roman warrior or whatever the fuck that
And
she
on
claimed that
Ragnarok
he was.
specifically, she'd be like, "You want Ragnarok? Well, did you
Yeah,
consider XYZ?" And then he'd be
I
like,
forgot she
"I've
was
never
British.
heard of that." And then he'd be like, "Well, I'm going to make you read this pamphlet." Yeah.
Oh my God, Shatterbird.
Um and then Burnscar's got the graphic novels. Burnscar, I'm sure, reads edgy graphic novels. These are for adults only, says the barely
Oh,
out of teenagehood Burnscar.
yeah, but she also reads slice of life mangas. Like she just can't help herself.
The thing is, actually, these stories are much more complex.
These stories are much more complex and fucked up. I think that she would read them in secret though. She would have her like her little slice of life
Well,
manga
she has the
collection.
outer cover which is like got it's covered
Oh,
in like blood, and she's like, I don't know. Anything could be in this book.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to call out that something I hadn't noticed exactly, but something that you said earlier, Shatterbird seems to have like a very strong hold over Burnscar, and we know that Shatterbird brought Burnscar into the group. So she might have a stronger connection there. Not that they're more like pleased with each other per se, but like a bigger hold, like a Jack figure, but for only Burnscar.
Yeah. Like they were all cuddling together.
Yeah, they
and
were
then,
on the couch
when
together. And
they
you
were on
know
the
what?
couch cuddling.
I never once considered it until now, but like, are
Maybe
any of these
Burnscar's never
freaks
hurt.
in like a relationship with each other?
I don't think so, but like Burnscar is like a like deprived lesbian who would
Yeah, I was
probably
gonna
just like
say,
take what she can get.
it seems like,
Nobody ever says Burnscar's a lesbian,
but
but I'm pretty
like,
sure.
she's seeking L.
Yeah. She like goes there to seek L and then
And I
be
did mean
like,
that to be a pun.
yeah. Oh my God. I don't know what I don't know what they're dealing with. I don't think that Shatterbird would engage in that way, but she's obviously like fine with some like of like physical connection. And then yeah, when Shatterbird tells her to put the flames out, Burnscar just does it. Like there's no resistance or any like, oh, I can't control myself.
Yeah, it's just like right away.
Yeah.
So slightly transitioning to Burnscar's section, I said I like that we see her reading the graphic novel and doing little fire tricks. It's one of my favorite like stupid moments. Whenever the two instances where we get to see Burnscar do little moving pictograms are both amazing. So
Yeah.
is it Jack?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just another great
Um,
moment. They're like, yeah, Jack could be randomly like knifing us in the
Jack could
face.
be randomly stabbing us for fun. But they even their like thing isn't only that he knows that he would like that he wouldn't be able to kill them, but also they're like he would have done it right, and it's like okay,
Yeah,
like
but
I guess
Bonesaw really like even performatively looks up to Jack, so like it makes
Mhm.
sense that she'd say that, but my thing would be more like the wall would have been busted because of how his power works.
Yeah,
I would just be focused on the mechanics cuz like
yeah.
Tinker. Um
Crawler doesn't do anything. I didn't even. I feel like we. This is the first time we've even heard him talk. And he just says that he doesn't smell anything.
mhm. Oh,
He
Vale
just
said a
was
couple
taking a
things
nap.
here. If anyone on the Slaughterhouse Nine reads self-help books, who would it be, and what would they read? It would be Jack, and he would read either Tony Robbins' Ultimate Power or whatever the Napoleon Hill book is based off of,
Oh,
because
and
all
he would
modern self-help
obviously
is based off an old-timey scammer named Napoleon Hill.
he would also read the 48 Laws of Power,
Oh,
not
he would
ironically.
totally read 48 Laws of Power. That would be
That
his
fucking
second
book
favorite
is
book. He would say
yeah.
first favorite book is American Psycho, but he's like, but the main guy's really cool.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
and then
And
yeah.
he would like want to recommend the 48 Laws of Power a lot of the time, but then he'd be like, but then they'll know my 48 Laws of Power, so he'll keep it to himself.
He's all like, I'm struggling to find someone I can share this book with.
Vale said, "What's wrong with Slice of Life? This live stream is so attacking me today." No, Vale, I really like Slice of Life, but I'm just saying that Burnscar like pretends to be like
Hard
an
as
edge
hell.
lord. Yeah, she tries to be like an edge lord, and she like has to pretend to be tough and stuff, and so like she would be too embarrassed to like read Slice of Life around people. I don't worry. I'm a Slice of Life fiend. Vale said until the Fire Nation attacked Burnscar's favorite moment in manga.
Greg said she looks at Azula and is like, it me.
Yeah. Crawler doesn't have a favorite book because he's never read a book in his life.
Yeah, Crawler seems like he's someone with like nothing going on.
Yeah. Head empty. He just only naps and then like runs around and
Head
gets
empty,
blown
just
up for fun.
powers. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, do we have anything to say about Bonesaw? She was mocking Jonathan as he was like, "Oh, I'm dying."
Yeah, I wrote down a real piece of shit. Because Bonesaw, she probably has slick back hair. She uses the blood to slick back her hair, surely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's eating sloppy steaks, you know.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, moving on to Jack. Obviously stringing Cherish along, loves to be evil, like if Palpatine was more of a dipshit. Those are the things I wrote about him.
Oh wait, but what's Bonesaw's favorite book?
Oh, what is Bonesaw's favorite book? Um, uh, I mean, we could make a joke about her loving some medical text, but she doesn't. She thinks they're all for children. Her favorite
I
book is a
think.
children's book because she loves those
Oh,
children's television programs,
yeah.
like
I
the
guess
Love
she
Bugs.
is like, she is like into love bugs
Love
and
Bugs,
probably
Scratch
like,
and Sniff. That's her favorite book.
and she's also like her costume is Alice in Wonderland inspired, as far as I can tell. Um,
Yeah,
just 'cause,
her and Nilbog both love Alice in Wonderland, and I'll tell you
yeah,
why. It's because Wildbow loves Alice in Wonderland.
it's because listen, everyone loves Alice in Wonderland, but you don't need to dress up like Alice from Alice in Wonderland while you're murdering a bunch of people. Um, I was gonna joke that she reads only web comics and it's
Mmm.
only Killing Stalking, but I don't
God,
know if anyone here has read Killing Stalking.
I have not. What's the very broadest strokes?
Oh God. So Killing Stalking is I think it's Korean web comic where there's our main character and he is in love with this guy and he stalks him. They're like both young adults who have both, this is like post their, you know how they all like go to the military or whatever?
Yeah.
So they like met in the military and he's been stalking him after that.
Mm.
And he breaks into his house one day and it turns out that the other guy is like a psycho who like kidnaps girls and keeps them in his basement and torture murders them. And so he keeps the stalker and then it's like kind of a romance.
Mm.
Um, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
It gives me Bonesaw vibes because it's like a boy love, but also it's like a horror drama.
If Bonesaw was 14 years old, I think you would be
Hmm.
right. But with
Yeah,
current Bonesaw, it's all about the Love Bug Scratch and Sniff book.
that's true. That's true. Uh, oh, hold on, we missed it. Vale said Crawler's trigger event was a paper cut from a book. He hates books. Greg said Bonesaw's a real romantic. She's holding that man's heart in her hands. Vale said Curious George. Imp is the Cheshire Cat.
I'm not sure which moments those were connected to. Um,
Uh,
no, the
It's
Curious
probably
George is
Bonesaw's
probably.
favorite book is Curious George.
Oh,
That's what.
okay, got it. Makes sense.
Yep.
And then Imp is the Cheshire Cat.
Oh well, I guess that I
Kind
think that
of.
Tattletale is the
She
Cheshire Cat.
Yeah, I think of Tattletale as the Cheshire Cat, but then I thought of near the end of the book, there's a point where Imp is like moving in and out of her cloak very subtly
Oh,
because
that's
she's got
true.
better aspect over her power and she can
Hmm.
talk to people without revealing herself. So they can just hear her voice without even like knowing where it's like that it's her. They just hear
That's
a
true.
voice.
Yeah,
So
cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, and then you already said Jack's favorite is the Clockwork Orange or whatever.
no, I think he likes American Psycho, the one
Oh, okay, okay.
where Christian Bale is the murderer, but the book version.
Yep, yep, yep.
Because he says a line from it like a couple chapters ago when he says this is not an exit. That's from that book.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, and then Cherish. I feel like there's a lot going on with Cherish in these last moments. I just wrote that she's desperate and willing to make back alley deals with unfamiliar parahumans to escape the night.
Yeah, she has like no idea who she's talking to.
You're invisible,
Um,
aren't you? You.
she says she's invisible. Um, that's so funny.
Yeah. Drop the knife. Drop
But
it.
honestly, any fate is better
Staying with
uh
the nine. Yeah.
than staying with the nine. And probably the only reason she's not wanting to get stabbed right now, is because then Bonesaw gets access to that bod.
Yeah. Um.
And Cherish's favorite books are Colleen Hoover. Anything by Colleen Hoover.
What's Colleen Hoover's deal?
She's she writes contemporary romance
Mm-hmm.
fiction.
Mm-hmm.
She's super, super popular on TikTok right now, and all of her relationships in the books are like incredibly toxic.
Oh yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would like only the most toxic stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I think that's a good sum up for the characters section, so we can head on to Powers Knowledge. We got the thing that we already talked about a bunch. Aisha's power is always on unless she consciously shows herself to people, and I think that ties in super well with multiple aspects of her personality. I kind of feel like she's really disconnected with her emotions unless she really focuses on it in the same way as showing herself. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then we got all the Slaughterhouse 9 members who have seemingly normal human bodies. In fact, have multiple layers of Tinker defenses built in, which means they're much harder to kill than the Travel-Siders has expected.
Yeah. It's some good dramatic irony. It also like helps to clear up like why have these people not all been sniped by now?
Yeah, because it seems like that's what you would do, is just perpetually use like huge teams of snipers, like tons of them at once coming from all angles, and just be like,
Hmm.
these are the Suicide Squad and they're willing to die to kill these people.
Yeah.
I definitely
Yeah.
believe that that's a thing.
Yeah. They'd swat them like crazy.
Yeah.
And they just
Um,
have waves and waves and waves of them coming in until they're all gone. The only problem would be Crawler, but if they could separate them from Crawler, like easy peasy,
well,
dude.
that's the thing, is there's powers that can make other powers come undone, and I think certain power effects, like if you canceled out Crawler's healing, he might like self-explode immediately or something. We have no idea if
Hmm.
he can withstand, without his healing, his own
Yeah.
like acid sacs or whatever.
Ugh,
Um,
gross.
and then like Siberian, we know that there are capes who can cancel out Siberian. Like Clock Blocker will literally like find that his power is effective against her later on. So
Hmm.
yeah. Um, so it's pretty cool. I think that if they could snipe off like most of the members and they were down to Siberian and Crawler, then they could take them out much more easily. And like without Shatterbird, then Dragon could get involved and like consistently just like do whatever she needs to do till it's over.
Yeah.
So, yep. But we know that Cauldron's trying to protect Shatterbird. Those sneaky Pete's. Do you have more to say about the powers and knowledge? I feel like there's not that much in these chapters. Like it's a lot more about Aisha herself than it is about expanding the world, which is
Yeah, I
good.
agree. I don't think there's a ton. Things are going bad in the city, as always.
Hmm. Vale says the PRT just doesn't understand that all they need to do is create a press release calling them bullies. Within a few weeks, the problem will be solved.
Oh yeah.
Um. Yeah, so I did a little bonus real quick as almost a joke, and you can say your own. But let's do hero villain power rankings. Top. Oh, I didn't do a bottom. Top five. Hi. Top five from each. Top five from the story so far. Beep. So I said heroes: Scion, Eidolon, Dragon, Legend, and Alexandria. And these are not precisely in strength order, although I think this one is in strength order.
Yeah.
This is just kind of their impact in the book and how big crazy hero, like top of the scale that we've seen so far, that we got. And then for villains, I kind of think the same thing. We got Leviathan, Lung, Shatterbird, Bonesaw, and Purity. Purity makes the list because she can like destroy a whole city from a distance. She can just
Yeah, she did just like blow up like many buildings the other day.
yeah. She's kind of a menace.
Yeah.
And then do you have any things you want to say on that before we scoot along?
No, go ahead.
Okay, audience participation. We've got Vale. Oh, sorry. The question is, what kind of hijinks would you get up to with Aisha's power? And Vale had said, one thing about Aisha's power, when I was her age, I would not have been trustworthy with it in any way at all. Aisha is a true hero. I don't think it permanently removes memories, just keeps them from forming to start with, and kind of masks any that did form. But the masked ones return eventually. For me, personally, this isn't a useful power that would lead to hijinks. I might go for more walks, though, if going for walks is hijinks. That's my version.
Aw.
I mean, I think that I kind of have the opposite impression that the memories don't come back later. Like, she has to be powers off for long enough for it to imprint, and if she like lets the power go on, it will even scrub backwards to points where it wasn't on. So, you know, the hijinks potential I think is very high. The ceiling
Oh
is
yeah.
it's very high. But
Yeah.
mhm.
If this were me, the thing is I would probably squat in like a rich person's summer home or something, you know what I mean? Like somebody who has like a house that they only go to like 1 month out of the year, and then they probably just have like a cleaning lady that like cleans it every month as well. And I would steal everything I own. I would just never ever work another day in my life.
Yeah. 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 Me too. I don't really believe in the same kinds of like baseline morality as a lot of people. Like, I don't have a big problem with just like if I had this power, walking into a place and like mine, mine.
Yeah. I do a lot of stealing. And that's the thing, like let's say I wanna steal or like I'm wanting some like specific art from like a small business or something like that. Like I don't even need to steal that directly. I can steal the money for them. I can Robin Hood it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
which is even better because then
Like
it's like
you could bank
I'm just
rob during like ATM money put-ins. You could just
oh
grab the money
yeah.
brick and walk away.
Dude, if Aisha was on the gang when they were doing the bank robbery, it would have been so much smoother.
Yeah.
She could have just gone in and like had Tattletale on the comms and like got everything she needed.
Yeah, because like they were stealing mostly like like the money was the money, but I think Tattletale makes way more from the documents she steals and doesn't give to Coil than they do for the entire
Mhm.
bank heist. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Vale said, by the way, I thought I saw other art before this one. Yeah, William's just been scrolling through the different Aisha art that we've made throughout the story. I think this is number 4.
yeah, this is the
But
fourth
yeah,
one.
the Undersiders know she's on the team. That is my argument. Yeah, but they don't retroactively, like they're not going to remember later that Aisha stormed out of
The only one who
the
might
meeting.
is like
Tattletale.
Tattletale, and like technically Regent might be able to remember that he sensed her there, but he
Hmm.
won't be able to remember anything she did or said.
Yeah. I think I think it depends on like how, because she talks about in this chapter like that her power like expands, like it feels like it's reaching out to something bigger. So I think that when she's not paying attention to it, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's kind of become like erasing more things that are adjacent to her. Like when she like just walks through doors,
When she holds her
nobody
hands over the
notices.
joints, they can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. Like that kind of thing. So I think she can kind of hone in how much is forgotten about her. And I know that later on,
Yeah,
like in
there's stuff
in
for
Ward
in
or
Ward
whatever.
that confirms that she can, like, if her power goes back on, people forget the moments that led up to it. If they haven't already formed a long-term memory about her, the entire
Hmm.
short term is gone for
Yeah.
the yeah.
Vale said, I think we agree, maybe just the degree it works is my question. Yeah, that's true.
I think at this point it works heavier than it does later because she's less good at canceling it out.
Yeah, controlling it. Because like think about the first
Fight with
like the
Taylor.
first fight with Taylor, yeah, where they're going like, "Oh, they have a stranger on our team," and she's like, "We do?" Like she totally forgets about it, about her completely. I think if that had happened even now, like if they're like, "Oh my God, she has a stranger on her team," she'd be like, "Oh, like that must be that they must be talking about Aisha. She must be doing something."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because she's kind of like imprinted more in her mind. Like in this meeting, she notices like Aisha cancels out her power, and then she's like, "Ah, I
Yeah.
forgot that Aisha was there." She's not like, "Who the hell is that?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to read Greg's answer real quick. It was, I'd make the world a little brighter for the folks around me. Friends would find they always have a little more cash on hand than they remembered. And I'd do the
Aw.
best surprise parties. So wholesome. Me and Vic are
That's
like, oh, we're
uh,
terrible. We're just gonna walk around stealing.
I know. The only nice thing I said is that I would
You
support small
Robin Hood.
artists.
Yeah.
I'm glad that that someone in the crew can be the good guy.
Yeah, can be the good Aisha.
Yeah, the good Aisha. Vales was nice too. They'll go on discreet
Vales was
walks.
the self love Aisha, where you take walks by yourself. Yeah. Um. So, for the next week. Oh, and as far as the hijinks I would do, mostly the same as Vic.
Yeah.
Um,
Live in some rich person's house that's never there.
living it up.
Live in it.
So for 13.3 and 4, make some all new Genesis forms to counter specific capes. It can just be one or whatever, but I just want to leave it open. Do as many as you like. Kind of just go ham. It is more or less your call on how in depth you go, all that. But
Hmm.
I know Vale likes to do little stories, and some people like to do really quick answers. So just whatever you like.
Vale says, "Me, I'd go outside. Sigma, I'd help friends. Hosts, steal everything."
I think
I would. I
Vale
love things.
Vale, I get the sense that you're not very parahuman adjacent, but I would describe Victoria and I as very parahuman adjacent.
We're evil. It's
Yeah.
okay. You guys gave me good advice. If I ever get Aisha's power, I will also go outside and
Hmm.
help my friends out.
We'll just also steal. I'll just do all three.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're being good influences on us. This is working out. I think I'm going to start up the music and read out the links, and then, like last week, our new thing is, or no, 2 weeks ago, our new thing is going to be that we just cut the cast and cut the end of the outro song when I have a guest. So, yes, let's start hearing that old. Wait, that's not the one. That. Okay. And so, do you have any final thoughts as the music is spooling into existence?
Um, no.
No.
don't put me on the spot. I've already been called out by Vale for being a thief.
Vale says, my leave the house superpower. Story by Vale. This doesn't sound like a great interlude. Yeah, well, we've got the music for the intro and outro is Infestation by ScarlettXOX, and you can find her at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue if she ever streams again. And then our Discord server can be found with the link in the stream description or channel description. We've got the author of the work at patreon.com/Wildbow, full text of the work at parahumans.wordpress.com, and the fan-made audiobook at audioworm.rain-online. However, we are also using for our new, for the Arc 13 stuff, this other podcast that is called Worm, an Unabridged Production, because they kind of did a better chapter reading for Arc 13. But all that aside, moving on to, I did want to mention that I have been looking into what I should do for the Arc 15-16 music, and I'd be open to accepting suggestions for what songs you guys think sort of fit into the pack, with the idea that I'll probably do my own thing. But, if you have any ideas for, music that you think is sort of related to the emotions of those arcs, feel free to throw it in the pot.
Right.
Random last thing I wanted to mention, because it was, recent, is new Spider-Man came out, and it was just so good. It was the Across the Spider-Verse, and the only two hero movies that kind of live up to the Parahuman series are the Spider-Verse movies. So
For real.
Yeah. Alright, bye everybody! I'm stopping the stream! Bye!
Bye.